Hi, I am Pratim Ranjan Bose, and you are watching Podcast with Pratim, presented by Iravati Research and Communication Center, or IRCC. In this episode, we will discuss about the Indian election and the democracy in danger theme pushed by the opposition and the Western media. I have with me celebrity editor Mr. R Jagannathan, nicknamed the Jaggi. He edited several publications like Business Today, Financial Express, Forbes India, Firstpost, etc. He is now an editorial director of Swarajya. Welcome to you, sir. It's a great pleasure to have
Thank
you.
you, Martha. Namaskar. कैवन आछो भाई?
Okay. Before we start the discussion, here is a disclaimer. Both of us both of us are in support of the nationalist theme in Indian politics. So do not blame us for quote unquote hidden agendas. Sir, with this, I think I can go to the question. How do you find this poll season? I find it both listless as well as interesting. Opposition
Yeah.
barely has any issue when it comes to economy and governance. Congress is relying on the same old theme of dole politics that failed them in Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh. The interesting part lies in the concerted effort by a section of Western media and opposition to delegitimize Indian democracy, including the judiciary. How do you look at it?
Yeah, I mean, that has been a long-standing problem there because I think they have never abandoned their colonialist lens. I mean, after Britain became less colonial because it became a tiny island on the other side of Europe and basically a vassal to the United States, the burden of colonial tropes shifted to the USA. And so all the Western publications, almost without fail, follow the US academic line on India. They need India to be in its place and they need to show us natives how to run a democracy. Never mind how badly they are running their own democracy, but they have the right to instruct us. So, this is the subtle thing informing all their things. And the fact that we are a thriving democracy and also a thriving economy right now, it sort of really bugs them because they're at the wrong end of the cycle in terms of their long-term rise of the Western civilization. Now it's in the down phase. So I think it really worries them, and also they believe that they made a mistake with China, where they went all out to support an autocratic regime for 3 or 4 decades, till that thing itself became a threat to them. Now they believe that they don't want to create another China and India, which of course these fellows don't understand. India has never been and will never be a China. We are a diverse people and we have our own checks and balances created by our pluralistic civilization. It is not because of a constitution that we are who we are. Whereas in the case of China, I mean, they have a 2000-year history of actually forcibly blending peoples who are not this thing so that it becomes like a core singular civilization. Through fights and wars for more than 2000 years, they've been fighting internally to create a single civilization.
Expanding. Of
We
history of
never, we from
expanding.
two, yeah. So from 300 BC, they started this whole process of unifying China and monoculturizing it, and it has finally resulted in the Han consensus. So in our case, it has never been so. We have been open to influences. We have influences from the east, from the west, from the south. We had all kinds of it. From the sea. We are always an ocean-going people. Throughout, we have one of the longest coastlines for the size of this land. So we have been open to cultural and racial mixes from everywhere. And it was not Sam Petroda who suddenly thought that we are Africans and Chinese here. Anyway, so their problem is they realize that this is a civilization that's rising again, and they thought they had suppressed it once and for all, but now it's rising on its own, and they don't know what to do. So this thing is coming.
So one thing emerges from what you were saying. One is you said that the US or the West supported China wholeheartedly. One
Yeah.
supported China. They politically at the official level they are now all for India, but at the same time, the media is unleashed to level it down. Now that takes me to a question. whenever it comes to press freedom, the Western media becomes the benchmark. It's democracy or whatever, everything is, they are the benchmark. They talk from a point of privilege. And it is as per the standards set by them. Some of us are referred here as Godi media. So now the same US media, you said about their China coverage. Now I just tracked it down. You will see clear phases. Post 1978, during 1978, I saw home videos made by Chinese American correspondents in China, where they are ridiculing Deng Xiaoping, the country, etc. Then we see post 1989, the Tiananmen fiasco. So they become hyperactive. Then they start, going by as the Western interests grow. So they are following that same trend of respecting China with some bits of criticism on human rights and etc. Everything comes to a stop in 2008. That was also the year when the Tibetan uprising happened. And everything comes to stop. They become blind supporters of China, because that was also coincidentally the time when Chinese money saved the West from the credit crisis. So now again, they have gone for another criticism phase. The question is, should we take them so seriously when they criticize?
No, we shouldn't. But the thing is, you see, our own minds have been colonized for 1,000 years. One by a religion and later on by a British thought process. So when we ourselves are taking such a long time to decolonize our minds, there are surely enough people within India and we have enough fault lines where they can use their media, which is all powerful, to still influence significant sections of this country. I mean, it's easy to do that because the fault lines exist, and as long as they exist, they can be exploited. And we are by and large an open society. So in that kind of a context, to create a problem is not very difficult in India. So I think they are doing that. But the problem really is, you mentioned that their own standards of journalism and media, their standards are not very great. What they are very good at is putting out very highly what do you call quality narratives, which
Articulated.
actually are well edited and appear to be well what do you call researched and other things. But the same thing, they could not spot the WMD nonsense spotted by the George Bush regime. So they went along. So by and
And,
large, the
and,
media,
and, and, and just to interject, sir, we saw something like embedded media. What was that?
yes, exactly. So that they will report exactly what the US Army in Iraq or wherever could want to report. So basically, that the fact is, whenever the country faced a crisis or they thought the country needed the backing, they were all the media has invariably been Godi media. Forget about here. Actually, when you have a surgical strike, you have some parts of the media that are questioning whether you actually did it, right? There, they didn't have any part of the media questioning anything they do, including the way they dealt with COVID, where more than 1.5 million people died. And they are busy trying to tell us that, oh, India actually is underreporting figures. We had 10 million died. They have actually reported 500,000. Like, my point is, even if our actual number is 5 times as much, adjusted for population, we have done better than them. So that they will never come to this thing. So the other point I want to say, you must read a book called The Grey Lady Winked. It's on the New York Times, and how they have seriously compromised themselves in the line of supporting the establishment. And today, for them, the establishment is only the Democratic Party, and they are supporting them to the hilt. To the extent, I think, before the last election, they went around suppressing a report on Hunter Biden, and even ridiculed other media that were reporting it. Till after the election, till after Biden got elected, then of course they said, yeah, maybe there is something to that report. This is what the New York Times did to the New York Post. So their standards are not particularly worth emulating because at a certain crunch, I mean, inwardly they look like they have a lot of critical stuff and all that, but they never cross a line. When it comes to their own government, their own larger national interest, they back the me. This thing. This is what happens in all countries.
Right, right. What is interesting is that we are, sort of cornered as nationalists. But actually, I find them more, I mean, hyper nationalists. When and
Yeah.
I'm just quoting here a line from Economist. It said, the greatest power of the US president is bullying power. When the US president speaks, the world listens. And they were actually criticizing Obama for diluting that power. Now, what is this? You are talking about bullying. No
Yeah,
other.
yeah. I think the Western mind, they are very good at creating new words to describe the same old thing. That is, they were singed by the two world wars, and after which Nazism suddenly became the defining thread in nationalism. And so they want to tar nationalism and taint it with the threat of Nazism. So they then went back to a new nomenclature when nationalism got rebranded as patriotism if it is to be accepted, but as nationalism if you don't like them. So this is the way they have rebranded, used words. What is the difference between patriotism and nationalism? I mean, then there is a third thing called civic nationalism. What civic nationalism? Are we talking about garbage and street lighting? I mean, civic nationalism. I mean, there is no country which actually practices civic nationalism, but they want to impose it on us. That look, there is no such thing as tribes, no such thing as groups, social groups, nothing. Everything is only according to a law created by thing. But are the laws created by certain powerful groups, or is it just that it was something that came directly from God? I mean, these fellows know how to deal with this thing by giving new nomenclatures. And if they want to make, suppose they want to make religion sound bad, they'll give it a bad name and say, okay, spirituality is good, religion is bad. Okay, I'm just saying, at some point, if they want to get into that argument, they'll do this. So we can also do that. But my point is, since they are in control of the overall narrative and definitions, they do that. Similarly, they created a word like post-truth. We know from dharma that often the truth is difficult to think. We can remove layers and start the truth. We assume there is a truth, but we get there closer and closer as you shed layers of ignorance. In their case, they think their truth came directly from one son of God or a prophet. So they decided that okay, once the truth is thing, everything that is doesn't accord with this idea is post-truth. So the word like post-truth was invented to delegitimize other views. So this is the problem with these guys, and I think nobody's told them that because they still control the global narrative. But I think it's falling apart now.
I think my favorite writer, Jack London, described it the best, the white man's laws. So,
Yeah,
sir, if we now a little more dissection of the Western media coverage, if we see the Western media coverage over the last few years during post 2014, increasingly, and as of now, Western media coverage on India are following two distinct trends. On the one hand, they are appreciating or admitting that Modi delivered when it comes to infrastructure growth, etc. At the same time, they are blaming the government, Modi, for dilution of democratic values. And they refer the same indexes that puts Hong Kong ahead of India in press freedom and all this nonsense. The very dangerous side of the story is I was hearing a recent podcast and where they are actually trying to bracket the quality of Indian democracy to the same level as that of Bangladesh. Which trend do you think will prevail in the coming years? I'm assuming that India will continue to grow at a robust rate. Over to
yeah,
you.
that's right. See, one thing is the reason why some of this narrative takes hold is largely because from being an incompetent state, which could not manage its borders, which could not manage crime and things like that. Under Modi, India has become a competent state. We can now catch hold of guys who have committed crimes because we have now had huge good criminal
The
databases
democracy has finally become accountable.
that not only accountable, it is capable of effective action. the thing is, under Manmohan Singh, nothing could be done. 26/11 happened, you couldn't do a thing. There were murders happening in Kashmir, right and left, you couldn't do it. You couldn't do a damn thing about it. So the only way you could manage anything was by extreme appeasement politics, which actually created the ground for the next round of terrorism. So appeasement allows you time to build your strength so that you can attack the same thing. This was the LTTE strategy. Whenever they were in a corner, they will suddenly start peace talks. And once they gained enough weapons and all that, they will again attack the Sri Lankan state. That was what they were doing, right? So this is the same strategy that we have followed for so long. For the first time, we have done a relentless effort to contain terrorism, while it's obviously not contained fully, but we have started striking at the roots, and the abolition of Article 370 and various other things actually show that the state has become far more competent than it was earlier. Now, this competence, if you now say this is a democratic backsliding, which is ridiculous. I mean, you look at any European state, they were once a very competent states. If there was any crime, they could go and catch it, right?
Right.
Today they have become like what we were earlier, an ineffective state. You see
Exactly.
the kind of,
The way
during
they,
the Black Lives, yeah. Today
right.
they can't control even shop market. Shoplifting. It's become a huge trend in large parts of
The
supermarkets.
torching events in Paris.
That's right. Correct. That's right. So the thing is, they are not able to control. I mean, they have allowed liberalism to become an end in itself, where they become an ineffective state. So this is the shift that is taking place. India is becoming a more competent state, capable of managing a lot of its problems. The West, which is drunk on the Kool-Aid of liberalism, without really understanding what liberalism means. You have cancel culture and you're still liberal. But at some level, that liberalism is allowing intolerant groups, criminals to thrive at the cost of the common people. So you talked about white man's rules. The problem really is, even if the white man's rule was implemented there, they'd be better off. Today, there is a huge split among the white men, because why is Trump rising? It's not the blacks who are putting him in power, if at all, if he comes to power. It
Right.
is the whites. It's a huge split in the white working class now feels that the elite have abandoned them and they have no option but to go for, let's say, dubious character like Trump.
Right. I mean, see, I'm giving couple of references which are most often used.
Yeah,
Like one is, say, freezing of bank accounts of Congress, the jailed, Mr. Kejriwal's arrest. Now, both of us know that in both the cases, Mr. Kejriwal jumped 9 or so summons, made his case difficult. Similarly, Congress didn't pay attention to the demands, IT demands that is recorded, and they are losing time and again. Now, when you can't, but you are still referring them as attack on democracy. And since the Supreme Court did not grant bail to Mr. Kejriwal, or Congress is not getting the legal judiciary aid. So, you are saying that the judiciary is compromised. How fair is that? Or the bigger issue is it I find it very dangerous tendency. And just because, it has been Congress Chief Minister, Mr. Amrinder Singh, who went in detail about the Ford Foundation funding to Mr. Kejriwal, right? It is not BJP,
yeah,
it's Mr. Amrinder Singh.
correct.
So given that perspective, if the central opposition in India buys these logics, is it very dangerous for the democracy? Because it is, it's like we are delegitimizing ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the problem really is that Kejriwal planned it in such a way so that the arrest happens just around the time of the election. Then he thought he'll get bail in 3 days, and then he'll pretend that, look, these fellows are out to get me. Right, in the way he wanted to play the victim card just around the time of the election. Because why? What was the logic of avoiding 9 summons? Huh? Because if he had answered the first summons, assuming, let's say, that after 3 months, the court itself might have granted him bail, say that you better file the charges and let him go on bail, or by this time he would have been out on bail. But he wanted to play a smart card, and rather the victim card, and he kept it close to the election, and then say, and he thought he will be immediately released by the Supreme Court, Tell me, if you and I were accused of the same crimes, would we get a release in 3 days? No, there is no chance. So what
Sir,
we
just a personal account here. I was witness to a case
uh,
and I
yeah,
missed a summon. Okay.
yeah.
There was an warrant issued against me.
Yes. Same thing happened to me also. I mean, there's some big business guy. We had made some minor error saying that the AGM had, we said the board approved some particular thing, whereas the nuance was that the AGM approved it. So in our reporting, we said that. Almost immediately we got a non-bailable warrant from some minor court in Delhi, and we all had to rush and give bail and things like that. And I mean, no reason at all. I mean, that this was just a minor thing. They could have just issued a directive saying issue an apology and a correction, and it wasn't even apology worth, because what's the big difference between AGM and board? Because the board recommends something to the AGM. Now once the AGM approves, the board activates the same thing, right? So it was not a big deal, but we still got called up, and the whole, from CEO to me to the actual writer of the report, all of us got hauled up in a Delhi court. We were all based in
So,
Bombay.
so we
So
are
this,
we are the Aam Aadmi.
yes, I mean, Kejriwal, the issue is not whether he avoided 9 summons, but why did he do so? He did so because he wanted it as close to the Lok Sabha election as possible,
So
so
he
that he
wanted to
thought he
take
will
the
go.
democracy for a ride. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes, correct. And with a victimhood nationally, he knew he won't get any seat in Delhi, so he thought if he did this, he might manage to salvage something. So that was his calculation. And the same problem, actually, even take the Congress. The National Herald case was filed in 2012 or some at that age. We are in 2024, 12 years later. The case hasn't even come up for proper trial. I mean, they've been, all these guys are out on bail. And if they say they are harassed, same thing happened with the income tax thing. It's been going on for a long time, they're avoiding it. They're coming towards poll time and then claim that they are victimhood, they
The
are
judge
victims.
judge went on record saying that probably the Congress didn't have a intention to
Yeah.
contest this
Correct.
claim.
Correct. Not only that, judges also do have this tendency to mollycoddle powerful politicians, because they worry that, I'm not talking about this particular judge, but say lower court judges, sometimes they worry about it. And also, I mean, they may also think, what if this fellow comes to power after 2 years? Then I'll get posted in somewhere in Mizoram or somewhere, and I've had it. So these guys worry about those things, and that's why they tend to give delays and adjournments as frequently as possible.
So, how are you finding the campaign trends? How do you see the things going? And what is your expectation from the election? Well, we had an expectation, but then came some fear index about the following the low polling in first two phases. So, how are you seeing this?
I think this is a normal election, not a wave election. And because it's a normal election, you will not have very high turnouts, except in some specific regions where some incumbents are facing huge problems, like, say, in West Bengal, or even, say, Tamil Nadu, or in, say, Kerala. So these are the areas where you will have high turnouts. In most other places, you will have average turnouts. And I think my expectation is that the BJP will win a majority clearly. I mean, that they'll get all that 370 and all, I'm not sure about. The problem really is the ecosystem is very strong in spreading narratives that, oh my God, the BJP is panicking and all that. The fellows who are panicking are these guys. So the BJP is doing what it has to do to get its vote out and other things, and it is doing its best. And I think they are doing all right. In fact, if anything, I think the vote is more or less on expected lines towards a majority, above a majority for the BJP, and with the NDA, it will clearly go above 300, 320, that kind of range. So there is no other problem there. And in fact, according to my assessment, as of the end of third phase, BJP has got a minimum of 160 seats, and it could have got as high as 175 to 80 seats. Right, in the first 284 seats, they have got nearly two-thirds of it. Right, and now we come to areas except Maharashtra and Bihar, and Karnataka is already over. So Maharashtra, Bihar, Karnataka is where they were expected to have some losses from last time. Elsewhere, they have made up, because Hindi belt, if you get one or two less in Rajasthan, you're getting 5, 6 more in UP. So that balances out. And the losses
In
Net are
Bengal also,
probably
I am
happening in.
expecting them to lose some, gain some.
Yeah, so my guess is they'll at least maintain that 18 that they got last time, if not grow on that. I think vote share will probably go up. As far as Maharashtra is concerned, BJP will do very well, but the NDA partners are a problem. So those guys might lose seats. And in Bihar, I think BJP again will do well, but JDU is the weak link. So BJP's partners are the problem this time in three states. JDS was a problem in Karnataka, JDU in Bihar, and NCP and Shiv Sena Shinde faction are the problem here. But the loss of about 15 to 20 seats in these states will be more than made up in the south, because BJP is making huge inroads, one in Telangana, a little bit in Andhra, little bit in Tamil Nadu, and may open a account in Kerala. Might
Just
get one seat or so.
I'm asking here, some
Yeah,
some estimates have come out that they might, about 19% vote share for
yeah.
BJP.
Where
But are you so bullish? That would put them as the second largest in terms of vote share.
Yes, yes, they will be the second largest party in Telangana and Tamil Nadu after this election. I think that's happening. What their problem is the distribution of the votes. Meaning, if the 19 is spread evenly, they won't get a single seat.
That's the problem
So
in
if it
Kerala
is
as well.
yeah, Kerala. So there is a good chance they may not even get a seat, but I think they'll get one,
But they are maintaining
one or
16%
two.
for quite some time.
Oh, yes, yes. So they are clearly the third force and the single largest party after Congress and CPM. Meaning others are all small parties like IUML, that Kerala Congress, the Christian Party and all that. But they are the single largest community-based party there among for many this things. So my guess is in the as far as the Lok Sabha are concerned, the BJP is already the largest party. I mean, in 2019 they got some 29 seats. The second largest party, DMK, had some 28 or 27. So they are the largest. Even Congress didn't get even as much as BJP. So from Karnataka alone and Telangana, they became the biggest South Indian party in the Lok Sabha. I'm not talking about state assemblies. This time, that strength is going to transfer not only in the Lok Sabha but also in the state assemblies by 2026 when these elections take place.
I look at it very positively in the sense, not for BJP, but spread of national parties. South almost
Yeah,
went into regional politics, so was East. So once again, there
yeah,
is a case for national politics across India, and I always thought that was a good chance for Congress to come back.
yes, correct,
But they are
correct.
missing the bus by
They're missing the bus. I mean, they've been done in by poor leadership. I mean, half the regional parties are all breakaways from Congress, right? Telugu Desam broke from the Congress, TMC broke from the Congress.
Let me come back, the final question when you said about this. To my understanding, Indian democracy is evolving itself. It has become very matured. If we look at the voting trend where voters are choosing for BJP in Lok Sabha, but Congress or some other party in Vidhan Sabha in the same state. So that tells us that
Yeah,
voters are no more blind. They are very well informed that whom to do. And they have expectations from the government, which is all that
yes,
post-liberalization politics was expected to deliver. That was P.V. Narasimha Rao's vision, that, about post-ideological politics. And if we look at BJP's politics, they have shifted gear or trying to shift gear from those early issues of Mandir, etc., to developed Bharat in 2047. So it's a very welcome trend where people have politics is overall, the rest of the politics is lagging. They are failing to catch on this narrative. That is one side of the story. Uh, how do you expect Congress to really evolve? I mean, they have to somewhere, I believe, dump these Gandhis and reorganize themselves.
correct. I think so. See, there is no doubt that the BJP is now fast becoming the only real national party with a national footprint. They may not get enough seats in the south in some states because regional parties still dominate. But if you look at it 2 elections from now, they will be. See, for example, Bihar, they were never very strong. nor in West Bengal. Today, they are just two lines that I think BJP is becoming the national party. The Congress, if it has to survive, it can survive in a federalist mode where all the old people who left the Congress can, in a federal structure without the Gandhis, where they have strong regional leaders who rotate, something like a Swiss
They
kind of
have
model.
resources. They have
They
resources, but
have
they haven't
resources.
given them
They have
chance.
resources. Yeah, they haven't given themselves chance. So they've all become regional forces because of the Gandhis.
They have a huge signboard, which is
Yeah,
brand. They have
yeah,
resources. They have national
yeah,
calling. If I go by the vote share, when BJP was not
yeah.
in power, its vote share has come down to 12%. But when
Correct.
Congress is not in power, its vote share has not gone down to that level. So that way,
That's
Congress is a much stronger brand.
that's right.
But
Correct.
only it is a leadership failure, which is
Absolutely, correctly. Because see, I think this is the problem with complete dynastic parties. See, dynasty up to one or two generations is okay. Here you started from Motilal Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi, now Rahul Gandhi, and the next junior Pappu will come in. Huh? I mean, this is a pathetic system. Huh?
pathetic, really.
So
I
sooner or
mean,
later,
I
when
was
these kind of
listening to Priyanka Gandhi's speech, what his father did. Actually, these things don't cut much ice to the industry 4.0 generation that they are failing to realize.
yeah, that's right, correct.
So,
That's true. That's true.
last question. Now, here is a critic of BJP. Mr. Modi did outstandingly well in his
Hmm.
leadership abilities, but I I personally see a huge gap in Modi and after Modi. Okay, in
Yes.
BJP's. But what is more important to me is if I compare Mr. Modi's leadership with Atal Bihari Vajpayee leadership, Mr. Modi's leadership has definitely given nationalists like us a wider recognition. Definitely, there is no second
Yeah.
doubt about it. But
Right.
has he done with the limited opportunity that Mr. Vajpayee got? He went on to this science of narrative. If we
Yeah.
remember the Saraswati River exploration
Yeah.
and all these things
Yeah.
started. So, do you think that Mr. Modi has done, or during this rule, has done enough to create the institutional capacity?
No, I don't think so. I think that is their biggest failures because those actually don't cost too much. They actually just need effort and some amount of sustained pushing from government side, and you put the right people on top, and you can rewrite your history with competent people. You can create new knowledge that are Indic in nature, that build your own civilizational values and modernize them while at the same time. We're not talking about anything ancient, the same as good now. That is the biggest single failure because 10 years you have done a lot of things. You have, in a sense, culturally mainstreamed us because see, when you talk repeatedly in your own language, Gujarati, Hindi, and all that, that's a big thing from an elite that was only able to talk in English, right? So, in fact, Mr. Modi is better understood even in the South when he talks in Hindi, though even though there is some bias against Hindi, right? So because most Indian languages, if I know Hindi, I'm sure I can understand most of Bangla. Huh? If you speak slowly, if you speak very fast, obviously I'll have difficulty understanding, but I don't have a problem comprehending
Same
because the
language.
vocabulary is similar, yeah, grammar is similar, something like that. So this part of the cultural thing he has done because he's talked only in this language, and even with foreigners he talks in Hindi, with the translator to do the job, huh? So in a sense, pride in the civilization has started coming, and that is one good thing. And I have no doubt that it is because of his political strength that even the court found the ability to give the Ram Mandir in favor of one of the litigants, right? Otherwise you might have got a divided verdict, you could have got anything. It is foolish to believe that politics does not impact judicial
The
decisions.
verdict
I mean, I'm
actually
not
had an
saying,
interesting line in it, the judgment,
huh?
that
Yeah,
the belief of
yeah,
people. So,
right.
that was very interesting.
Yeah, correct. Because see, no judicial judgment is entirely devoid of social and political content. In a sense, they see what is happening, they will note what is the thing. I mean, nobody just interprets the laws. So I think the fact that he came with a big majority, suddenly the Supreme Court decided that they will finish the case fast, right? But till that time, they were, I mean, Allahabad judgment came in
And this case was
2010.
going on for 200 years or so.
Yeah, no, forget that. Let's say the Allahabad judgment came 18 years after the Babri Masjid came down.
Right.
And it took the Supreme Court another 9 years to come to the decision. I mean, they were trying, say, why don't you try mediation, arbitration, all kinds of stuff. Nothing happened. It was only when Mr. Modi came back, the court decided that they will not postpone it anymore. Now that they developed the political courage to do, or rather the courage to do the right thing. Even to do the right thing, sometimes they have to feel that, okay, this will be politically acceptable.
Okay. Yeah, so that is actually, thank you for you said about the institutional capacity building, and
Yeah, that hasn't been done.
there are a couple of complaints in that area. I think
Yeah,
that way Mr. Vajpayee did a better job in his
yeah,
limited
yeah,
opportunity. Thank you for
right.
giving us time, sir.
Thank you, Pradeep.
Thanks.